Alright, so what I'm going to be making today is going to be fettuccine alfredo. Now, you don't really need a lot for fettuccine alfredo. You really just need butter, heavy whipping cream, and cheese. But personally, I also like to add in milk, minced garlic, oregano, thyme, sage, basil, and parsley. Those are my core ingredients for most of the pastas that I make. Now, I also have fettuccine here. I'm not going to make the actual noodles because, frankly, I don't know how. Damn it. Anyway, I'm going to set these aside and I'm going to pause this video so I can get everything ready. Alright, so for these pans that I'm using, these are Hexclad pans. They're really nice. They're Gordon Ramsay's brand. They are very good for cooking stuff. You really only need them to be at roughly between a 2 and 3 on something that has um, a 1 through 9 to 1 through 7 scale, which is really nice. Obviously, I just said that. Anyway, so the first thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to take some of this minced garlic here. Sometimes I have... Oh, nice. It decided to open today. Anyway, going to want to take roughly 3 spoonfuls of this. Don't know if I even put it in there. There we go. Also, I have the water boiling, so I can put the noodles in there once it decides to be done. Anyway, after you put this little bit in there, you're going to want to add in some butter. I cut out about this much from that giant block that I had earlier. It's roughly half a stick, I think. I don't know. I didn't measure it. I almost never do. Anyway, you're going to want to put those in there. Wait for this right here to simmer. And, yeah. Alright. So while this is melting, I'm going to go ahead and stir this and put in some of the mandatory scientific knowledge. The first part of this is going to be about food groups. Now, in the class, they said that there was precisely 4 of them, being proteins, fats, carbohydrates, and, well, one other one that I can't remember right now because this is all that's in here. So that's all that's in here: proteins, fats, and carbohydrates. Now, milk is actually a protein, which not a lot of people realize, but it's a protein because of the casein and whey content, which is very nice. So this counts as protein, which is, well, when I put the milk and the cream and all that in, it does count as protein because, well, they have casein in it. I think that's how you say that. Don't entirely know. Anyway, I put butter in here to help fry it because it has a pretty high smoking point of roughly 350 degrees, which is really good for when you want to do something like this and you want to kind of fry a little bit of garlic or do something like that. It's really nice. See how much I have right there left? Once this is melted, I'm going to wait for it to bubble a little bit and then I'll start putting in everything else. Anyway, another thing is that the sugars and the cellulose in carbohydrates are, or for the noodles that I have, are going to help to make the dish better. Which that's also why a lot of people will put a bit of pasta water into the sauce because the stuff in there makes it all nice and creamy. But I'll talk about that a little bit later. All right, now that this is simmering, I'm going to talk about my second point, which is sautéing, aka what I'm mostly going to be using here. I'm frying here, but most of this is going to be sautéing, which is really nice. So, Usually, sautéing is roughly between 300 and 400 degrees, which is good for butter because its melting point is around 350. So, this is good. Now, I'm not using it here, but there's something called a Maillard reaction, which is how like a meat or something like that turns brown. I'm not going to be using any meat here. This is more like caramelization, which does the same thing, only the Maillard reaction, the stuff there turns brown because, well, it decreases the sugars and all that, and it's an entire process. It's really nice that it turns brown. It's really useful for, helping know when a meat would be cooked, like a chicken or something, or a steak. Caramelization is a very similar thing where instead it's releasing that sugar and it's like creating more. It's really nice. And, well, most times I see it is in legitimately caramelizing sugar, turning it into caramel, or caramelizing onions, which I'm also not using either of those here. So, but still, really nice facts about the browning of substances. Another thing is that when you saute like this, it tends to be better. Well, not like this. This is currently more closer to a fry. But when you saute, it tends to be a bit on the more nutritious side of things because it likes to, well, sauteing can preserve nutrients better than another cooking method like, say, boiling would. Which, I mean, you shouldn't really. Let's use chicken. Chicken, let's be honest, no one likes it boiled. It also doesn't really brown at all. It tends to kind of just stay that white color, which is fine, but it's not for most people. Now, once this, see that it starts bubbling right there, this is about the time that I go to my next step, which is to put in a little bit of cheese. Actually, first, I need heavy whipping cream, roughly a half cup of it, as well as milk. I like to put them both in at the same time. Well, not the same time, but roughly the same time. Go ahead and get this second one right here. Pour that in there. Really nice. And now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and stir this a little bit until it's bubbling again. Anyway, you see that how the butter is separating from the milk? That's because butter is what's called a lipid. Lipids are basically oils and fats and stuff like that. So you'll see this reaction, and well, water. Let me explain it first. Milk is roughly, I believe, 70-ish% water, and lipids, or okay, oils and fats, really just do not like water. And since milk is mostly water, the water and the, well, butter are not mixing. They are so chemically different that they do not mix. Kind of like how some people are very different and do not mix. Yeah, see this color? This is about the color that we want. It's already smoking a bit, which means that we know that it has in fact passed the smoking point for butter, which is really nice. Yeah, see that right there? This right here is like clear over here and yellow right there, and then it goes back to white, and it's not exactly gradient. That's how that works. It just it's hydrophobic. That's what it is. It's the butter is hydrophobic. All right, and now that this right here is doing that, what's going to happen now is I'm going to put in these. Really nice. Make sure that they are, of course, mostly submerged. And again, and just so everybody knows, this is how I like to eat it. This is how I like to make it. So if you don't like the way I make it, cry about it. Also, something about fettuccine is that it is a lot thicker than a lot of noodles. It's a lot thicker than a lot of noodles, so yeah, it'll take a lot longer to cook than most noodles would. Another thing is that this right here, this boiling thing, is a different thing from my frying slash sauteing thing. Oh, that's boiling now, which means now I add my cheese, which let's go ahead and put all that in. Now I put in milk because, well, it bonds to the cheese, or no, the cheese bonds to it, and it really just. Okay, I'm gonna turn that down a little bit. So the cheese bonds to it and tries to make, well, a sauce. Now the milk and the cream both like to look at that and be like, no, I don't want to be just straight cheese. I want to be a sauce. I want to be creamy. Makes this mixture do that. Of course, I always add a lot of cheese because, well, I like to have a lot of cheese. That's why I have a candy jar full of dairy pills over there. Because I am very lactose intolerant. Anyway, I put the cream in there because, well, it helps enrich the flavor as well as it adds a nice aroma sometimes. It also helps with the creamy texture. Another thing is that it also helps stabilize the sauce. See how that's already like doing that? I do this. When I'm mixing, there's bits. Look, I'm not even going that fast. It's doing that. That means that this sauce is starting to be a sauce. Yes, this sauce is made of sauce. That's basically what this is saying now. It's really nice. I'm going to add a bit more cheese because I like cheese. Now then, once this is... Oh yeah, and I also, before I started this video, I grinded this all out of a block of Parmesan cheese. In a traditional bit of this, all you really need would be, well, this. You make the sauce strictly out of this and maybe some cream, but a lot of times you don't use cream. Anyway, I don't know if you can see this in the video, but you can see a bit of like a grainy bit. That is from the cheese. The cheese likes to make sauce grainy. And the milk and heavy whipping cream both look at that and say, no, I don't want to be grainy. I want to be smooth. This is, of course, what I want. I want this to be grainy, or I want this to be smooth. It's really nice. Put a little bit more in there, and then I'll go to the next step, which is adding in the aromatics. So, like my collection of five spices that herbs and spices that I use in practically everything, being thyme, sage, basil, parsley, and oregano. I like to put them in there. Frankly, I like to have a lot in there. Also starting to think that I might have put a little bit... Oh, don't know if you can see that or not, but it's just dripping off. That's about what we want that to be like right now. Now, I'm going to start adding in the aromatics, which each of these like to combine in there and put their stuff out. It's really nice. Now, of course, that might look like a lot to some people, but again, this is how I make it. This is how I like to eat it, so If you don't like it, cry about it. Next is going to be the parsley. Oh, it's a little bit of movement right there. That's a good thing. We want that to be bubbling. Next is going to be the sage. This one's always hard to get out. Oh, it started smoking again. That's also a good thing. Means we know it's cooking. There we go. Next one is going to be thyme, which this one is ground, so it's a lot easier. Just do that, squeeze it, let it go. It's really nice. And the last of these is going to be oregano, which is also ground. Again, just squeeze out the bottle. Very nice. I can already smell all of it, which is very good. Go ahead and just mix it in like this. This also helps thicken the sauce because it's giving it more sustenance to latch onto and thicken up to and all that. It's really nice. I, of course, have a recipe that I have on a Discord server that I will go ahead and put there. It's my own recipe that I myself put up. I created it. I like it. I make it. And almost everyone I've given it to said they liked it. So, there we go. That is now like that. And I'm going to check and make sure I remembered everything. So, I will be right back. Alright, so I looked at it. Turns out I am missing another half cup of heavy whipping cream and milk. So, I'm going to go grab that out of the sink. Alright, so I admit my mistakes. I didn't have enough in there. Let's hope that this right here, even though out of order, still decides to work. Because I genuinely don't know if it will. And I really hope it does because this is my dinner. Thought it was too green. Now I left it here a little bit too long, so now there's a bit of residue on the bottom, which sucks, but we make do. Actually, now that I added that in, it seems that the residue on the bottom has lifted up, which is very nice. Not feeling a lot of stuff here, and yeah, I definitely messed up the sauce at least a little bit. So let's just go ahead and add in the rest of this and go into my reserves. There we go, look at that. Barely even see the outside bits when I'm just doing this. Also, another thing is that the noodles have now become like this. Nice and like that. Alright, now while I'm trying to save this here, let's talk about my fourth point, which is vegetables, which, believe it or not, garlic does in fact count as a vegetable. It's in the same family as onions, shallots, and other things similar. Now, I use garlic in here to add a nice rich and savory flavor to the sauce, the garlic flavor. It's really nice. I love garlic. Helps keep the vampires away. Garlic also helps with heart health because it can lower your blood pressure. Of course, you don't want that to go too low or else it, well, stops flowing. And no one wants that. So, garlic is also one of the most versatile, well, vegetables in the area of cooking. It's used in thousands of dishes. And, well, as you saw in the beginning, I put a lot into this one. Garlic is great. Now let's talk about the noodles. The noodles contain wheat, which is a starch. And a starch is is a molecule which comes from plants. It also comes in potatoes, carrots, peas, lentils, beans, stuff like that. It's really nice. Wheat here, which is this, the noodles, also contain a great source of carbs and protein. Because that's what everyone needs in life, a cup of protein. Anyway, so wheat is also a great source of fiber, vitamin B, iron, and magnesium, which I need a lot more iron in my life. Iron is great. Alright, so the next part of this is going to be adding in flour, which, well, is wheat. That great source of protein and everything else. Iron, really good stuff. Now I put the wheat in here. Now it's kind of important that you sift it. So I just, boom, make sure it's all in there. And then I just kind of do this. Now sometimes I like to have a second person here, but I don't have a second person. So in between sifts, I'm going to just go ahead and mix. So I can just do this. Go ahead and mix what's in there already into there. It's really nice. Look at that. Now, I'm using this here because it also acts like a bonding agent, making the sauce be thick, which we want thick. It also, as you can probably see, it got rid of a lot of the oil content in there. It absorbed it. You see, flour just loves to kind of mix with everything. It loves to be everywhere. And also, this actually is looking pretty okay. It's a bit more green than I would have wanted, but that's really just my own fault because I didn't put enough stuff in at the right time. Which I'm probably going to end up putting a little bit more in here because, well, it's a bit too thick now. But I need to put this in there. There we go. Really nice. You see, a good thing about home cooking is that, well, there's no one here to judge you, especially when you're alone. But of course, I'm just going to put a little bit more milk and a little bit more cream in there to kind of even out the color a bit and make it more creamy rather than thick like that. Look at that, it's already working. This little bit right here is significantly more creamy. Really nice. See how that's just becoming good? It's really good. Good is good, and great is good, and exemplary is good, and all that. Look at that, I can just rub this right on top. It's really good. Anyway, I'm going to strain this. Oh god, I really don't know how my dog ate the strainer. I'm going to turn off the heat on this, at least turn it really low into like a 1, because it has been on a 3 this entire time, which isn't up yet. Look at this. That's a hex-clad pan for you. Look at that. Really great pans. Glad my family owns some. So, I will be right back after I strain these noodles. Actually, let's make sure that they are in fact done first. Let's see how many tries it takes. Nice, 3. Third time's the charm. Okay. Yes, they are very much done. Turn that heat off, and I will be right back. Alright, well, I was able to get all the noodles over here. All I had to do was take them out with this, put them into this bowl, and then drain the water, and then put them back in there. It took me a solid 5 minutes. It was not very fun. Actually, I'm gonna. Oh, damn! I forgot to put the sauce in there. I'm sad about that now. Also, fun fact: I dropped my phone in there while I was doing that. That was awesome. Um, Anyway, let's talk about the sauce now. Just the sauce in general, which is the Alfredo sauce. So the sauce works because, well, the cheese and the milk act pretty nicely together, as well as the flour, because, well, it's a strong bond between them all. Of course, you can still see a bit of the oil on top, but not as much as there used to be. It's also creamy because of the cream and the milk are, well, working to actively pull it apart, whereas the cheese and the flour are trying to pull it together. So while it's in a constant state of trying to get pulled apart and stay together, ow, a little bit of the oil went on my finger, oh well, uh, it turns to be a sauce, which is why you kind of have to mix it a bunch, and you know, as it tries to dissolve itself, and you try, well, it's doing emulsion. That's what it's doing, and then we are trying to counter that by mixing it together. This is also why you can't really have extremely good second day this, because, well, it doesn't always want to. Now, Alfredo sauce doesn't normally have, like, the sauce itself is good for, like, dips and shit, because, well, it doesn't have a lot of carbs in it. Like, yes, the cheese and the milk and all that do have carbs, but it doesn't have a lot. So it's good for, like, low carb diets and stuff like that. It's good for, like, a dip with, like, I don't know if corn chips have that or not, but still, use it as a dip. Look at that. That's a pretty nice dip. Of course, it's sliding off, but even then, if I were to use a chip, it wouldn't. So, now I'm going to be right back because, yeah. Alright. So, this has gone on a bit longer than I originally anticipated, as 15 minutes is the thing that I needed. However, I had a lot to say, and also a lot of parts where I just didn't say anything. So, what's going to happen now is I'm going to take this bit out right here, mix it one last time, clockwise, counterclockwise, bring the top to the bottom to the top, that type of stuff. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to make sure there's not a lot on here left, which there isn't a lot left, it's fine. And I'm going to move this onto there, like so. And it all just slides right off. Yeah, now that's my own fault. That actually looks like a really nice cheese crisp. Anyway, put that over there to cool off, because you shouldn't do that. You shouldn't try to clean it while it's still hot. Move this over here where it's still on low. And now what's going to happen is I'm just going to mix all this up. Now, personally, I don't have that much of a taste. Now, you could say it's from COVID, but frankly, I never caught it. So, I like to put a lot of seasonings in here. That's what I like. I also like to mix it like this because it's what I like. Pretty much everything that's happening here is because it's what I like. Now, it's done. It looks a lot better despite me messing up a lot. So, have a great day and good class, everybody.